everybody. Larry McCarren for Packers.com. The NFL has announced its all-decade team from 2010 through 2019. And here are some facts and figures while you check that out. 53 players, 2 coaches, 8 unanimous choices. Teams with the most representatives: Seattle, New England, and Kansas City, all with 5. The division with the most representatives, the NFC West, with 9. Repeaters from the previous all-decade team, there are 3. Devin Hester, Shane Lechler, and Julius Peppers. And now we are joined by my esteemed colleague and voice to the Green Bay Packers, and my personal opinion, the best in the business, Wayne Larrivee. Wayne, how are you?
Good, Larry. That's the first good thing you've said about me this year.
Wayne, welcome to the party here. Any first impressions of the all-decade team?
Yeah, you know, these all-decade teams, Larry, these guys are generally heavily considered for, and most of them will make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, you know, you're really talking about guys who are pretty much slam dunks for an all-decade team. But to me, it's hard to argue with any of them. I mean, there are a couple of choices we'll talk about. But the 2 quarterbacks were the best in the business. They led their teams to the most wins in the decade and certainly deserve to be on the team.
Of course, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Brady, a unanimous choice. And Wayne, I talked to Pete Doherty, who, as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame selection committee, that he voted in this process. He said quarterback was easy. And you look at the 2 names, you understand why he said that. However, just a personal opinion, while Tom Brady has more skins on the wall, I'm sorry, I still think Aaron Rodgers is the better football player. What say you?
Yeah, I think he's the better athlete of the 2. There's no question about that, Rock. But as you know, quarterback, so many of the intangibles come into play. But Aaron has the intangibles as well. Tom Brady had Bill Belichick behind him, and that certainly helped him. There's no question they were a great combination. But I agree with you. I do think Aaron Rodgers is the better talent than Tom Brady. And I go back to that game in 2014 at Lambeau Field, the first meeting between Brady and Rodgers. They both played terrific. It was one of the best games in my 40 years in the NFL I've ever seen.
Certainly with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady as well, both tilt the field. It's just in their own way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Tom Brady's probably a little more of a system quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who'll get out on the flank of a play when it breaks down. That's where he's at his best. Tom Brady, it's all quick passing. It's from the pocket, that type of thing. 2 stark contrasts here in quarterback play in the modern era, but both are the best of what they do.
Some more Green Bay flavor in the way of Julius Peppers. 3 years of the decade, he's with the Green Bay Packers, and just one of those guys that you look at him and you think, what high school did you go to? Because his athletic talent and ability just from another planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Even later in his career, Larry, he was effective every year of his career, which is amazing. And you know what we saw over 3 years? He never, forget about missing a game. The guy never missed a practice. He was like you. He was at practice every day, never missed. And so, you know, and the thing that impressed me about him, Rock, and watching him, he was one of these quiet leaders in the locker room. You could tell he had a major impact. And back in that time when he was with the Packers, they chose their captains for the postseason, and that was voted on by the team. His first year, he was elected a captain of that playoff team, and that spoke volumes for the impact he had, not only on the field, but certainly off the field.
And something he accomplished as a Green Bay Packer, not a Chicago Bear, not a Carolina Panther, something he accomplished in Green Bay was becoming the first 100-sack man with 10 interceptions. How crazy a combination is that, Wayne?
You know, it's amazing, Rock, when he came into the league, obviously with Carolina, he was a defensive lineman, and Don Capers put him an outside linebacker more often than not for the Packers. Certainly played on the line as well, but you're right, just a freakish athlete who could make plays both against the pass and against the run, and I just think one of the most complete players of the entire decade.
A little bit more of Green Bay flavor, not a lot. Jari Evans is on the team. He played 1 season. He finished up in Green Bay. And just a class act, show the young guys how it's done, how to be a pro.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Just a nice addition to the team the 1 year he played. He had a great career with the New Orleans Saints. That's why he's on this all-decade team, and well-deserved. One of the great interior linemen of the past decade, no doubt.
I want to point out another factoid about the all-decade team. The teams with the two best records over the course of the decade, all games, postseason included, were the Patriots, 141, 42, and 0, and the Green Bay Packers, 112, 63, and 2. And yet the Patriots have 5 representatives, and the Green Bay Packers actually have just one, Aaron Rodgers, who spent the entire decade in Green Bay. I call foul to a certain extent. And Wayne, I was wondering, do you have other Green Bay Packers you think should have been considered, at least considered?
Well, certainly David Bakhtiari, who came into the league in 2013. And Rock, as an offensive lineman, it takes a few years before you're recognized, because so many people who pick teams like this don't really recognize the inside play on the offensive line as well as maybe they should at other positions. So it takes David Bakhtiari a little time to get up to this level, but I think by the end of the decade, he certainly was. The other is Davante Adams. It's a matter of timing. But Davante was a second-round choice back in 2014, and it wasn't until 2 or 3 years later that he had that breakout season and has been one of the top receivers in the game today. There's no doubt about that. But those two guys come to mind. And a third would be Clay Matthews. I thought he was a guy worthy of consideration.
Well, that's the point that Pete Doherty also made when I spoke to him about this, is that timing does make a difference. Clay came out in 2009. He went to the Pro Bowl, Wayne, 6 of his first 7 seasons. He was going nuts. And then in the one season, he goes inside. And I'm thinking this is going to help him in the Hall of Fame, that he could go inside and be a tremendous factor right there. It's just a case where sometimes the timing works for you and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. No question about it. But I think Clay is one of those players that should get strong consideration for this team. But it's hard to argue. You know what, Rock, when you look at the team overall, and we have, a couple of choices from the Packers that maybe could have made this team, but it's hard to argue with the guys on this team.
No, there are no wrong choices.
No, there really aren't.
A couple more Green Bay Packers I was thinking about, Wayne. Charles Woodson. Yep. Early in the decade, 10, 11, 12. He's going to the Pro Bowls, at least 10 and 11, and certainly still an impact player. Of course, he was an all-decade team member the previous decade, but he was a guy they could have thought about a little bit.
Well, I bet you they did. I bet you he entered the discussion, no doubt about it. And a guy who I thought, maintained a high level of performance right down to the end of his career, his last season with Oakland.
Let me throw out another one for you and go back to my buddies in the offensive line. Josh Sitton. During the course of that decade, 4 Pro Bowls, 3 as a Green Bay Packer. Josh Sitton was right up there with the best of the business.
Yeah, he really was, and just a road grader, a type of guy who you could build a running game behind, and I thought the Packers had an excellent tandem of guards, and he and TJ Lang in the middle portion of this decade. When you look at the whole total decade, there's no doubt Josh Sitton was certainly among those great players at that position.
Got one more for you, Wayne. I dug on this thing. Our colleague, John Kuhn. John was as decorated as any fullback over the past decade. 3 Pro Bowls, first team All-Pro, the whole ball of wax. However, the powers that be in the NFL decided that the fullback has kind of run its course in the NFL, and now instead of that, they have what they call an offensive flex position. But had they kept the fullback position, I think our colleague John Kuhn's in the run.
Oh, I think there's no question about that. And John was a guy, Rock, as a receiver, as a runner, short yardage player, very consistent to the short yardage. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to pick a fullback on this team, he'd be it.
Okay, Wayne, as we draw this to a conclusion, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your favorite radio call of the decade. The voice of the Green Bay Packers, his favorite radio call of the decade.
Oh gosh, I know it should be the Hail Mary pass in Detroit on that Thursday night.
Rainbows high and deep into the end zone, and it is caught for a touchdown.
But that was so hard for me to see who caught the damn ball. So
no, absolutely, and Wayne, I was of absolutely no help to you because I didn't see it either, and I just let you stand there and try to figure it out. If you don't like that call, it's my fault.
No way at all. I just wanted to make sure I had the right receiver on the call. The Rodgers to Cobb touchdown pass in Chicago that won the division championship. That one, John Kuhn made the key block on Julius Peppers, and Cobb was wide open, and A-Rod hit him. That came off a season in which Rodgers missed most of the campaign, got injured against the Bears. Could have been a really good year for the Packers, but They struggled. Matt Flynn saved the season with a couple of wins, and then Aaron returned for that final game of the regular season in Chicago. Ended up being a winner-take-all, and that play won it.
As you know what, Wayne, that was my favorite call as well. I actually got to talk quite a bit during that call.
Yes, you did. It was great. It was pure emotion. It was everything that, hey, if you're going to do that against any team, not the Lions, not the 49ers, do it against the Bears. That's the team.
Blitz is on. Rodgers scrambles left, winds up Rainbow. Cobb. He's got Cobb at the 10 to the 5 to the end zone. Touchdown and a dagger. Oh my goodness. An NFC North Division Championship dagger.
Hey, Wayne, great seeing you again. Thanks a lot.
Good seeing you, Rock. Stay healthy.
All right, and thank you for watching. Until next time, take care and stay safe.